For those who don't know me, I'm Timantha Vidanagamye. I love working with Microsoft data platform technologies such as Microsoft Power BI, Azure Analysis Services, and Azure Data Factory. So the most important thing out of all the details that you see in the screen right now is my Twitter handle at TimanthaB. So please follow me on Twitter at TimanthaB. Now, a bit about these training sessions that we are conducting uh, in these few weeks. So, firstly, around the beginning of this month, I conducted a training session, a beginner training session, which was about basically creating a data model with reference to a data source and some very basic data modeling concepts that we need there as well. And with that model, today we'll be moving into our second session where we will have the data source, we will have our data model and we'll be modifying our data model into a into a better uh, into a better condition with the use of Power BI data flows for data preparation and with the data model itself. So that's what we'll be doing today. Basically, today's session will be about how you can advance your data model a little bit, how you can take your data model to the next level with the use of Power BI data flows. Right. Talking about the third session after this. So we'll have a data model that's decently advanced uh, after we completed the session today. And with that data model and with that data flows and basically with that solution, we'll be moving into the data visualizations in reports, right? So we'll be referring to this respective data model and data platform, and we'll be doing analytics with that. We'll be basically doing data. I'll be basically showing you how to engage in data visualization, like how to visualize the data appropriately in the right way with the use of the data model that we had created. After we do that, we move into our final session. So we'll be moving into our final sessions with a data model that is decently advanced and basically a report with data visualizations. And with that, we'll be moving into our next session, our fourth session. So in the fourth session, what I'll be talking about is data visualizations in dashboards and a workspace management in detail. So, not to misunderstand, today we will be just touching over workspaces a little bit because workspaces will be essential today. But today I will be not going into that level of depth. I'll be just touching it over and just showing you around and we'll be covering it in a bit detail in this session. So those are the four sessions that we had planned, and as Azan said, we will be having more sessions coming in the future based on your requirements, and I'm also planning to conduct some DAX training sessions as well, since DAX is necessary for like effective data modeling with Power BI and also environments like Azure Analysis Services and SQL Server Analysis Services, platforms like Azure Analysis Services and SQL Server Analysis Services. So yeah, that's something I'm hoping to cover as well. Let's see how we can move ahead of that. So these are the four planned sessions, and I hope you understand where you are heading. So that we can, so that it will be a lot more clearer in terms of the final expectation of this training session. Right, that's about the plan that we had plotted out for our training sessions. And moving into the agenda for today, firstly, we will be looking at data modeling configurations a bit. And so last time, I think last time what we did was we just created a data model in Power BI desktop. So this time what we will be doing is we'll be will be basically deploying, or you can say publishing the data model and doing specific configurations to that. And I will not be spitting out all the details right now, but we'll be doing a lot of things there. So you can simply say it's data model configurations. Then afterwards, like after the data model configurations, we'll be ready and set to go to the data preparation with data flow stars, which is like the core section that I'll be covering in this session. So let's get right into it. So this session is a bit different. Usually in my sessions, what I do is I usually start by giving some introductory concepts and bringing in some theory. But since I had given you a decent amount of theory this in the last session, so I'll be starting this session with the demo itself. And from the demo, in the middle of the session, we'll be moving back into theory a bit to understand some of the essential concepts. Right. So first thing that we'll be doing is creating a workspace. So what is a workspace? Simply just take a workspace as an environment where you can publish all your maintain and have all your Power BI components to be used by multiple users for different analytical purposes. So that's what a workspace is. So in this session, we'll be creating a workspace, and for that, I'll be heading right into my Power BI service. Right. How do you access Power BI service? It's very easy. Just app.powerbi.com, app.powerbi.com, and you will be headed into a different. You will not be headed into Power BI service straight away. Let me show that to you as well. So you will be heading yourself into if you say app.powerbi.com, for you it would be looking at something like this. From here, just click on sign in first and sign into your respective account. Mine is this, and after you sign in, sorry about that. So let me quickly just go through that. Otherwise, it would not be clear for you guys if you guys are a beginner in terms of how to access this environment. So I would quickly look at my folder. If I multi-factor authentication here, so sorry about that. And after you log in from the sign-in option that you said, you should be able to see your name, or basically the account that you have logged in with. And right next to it, you would see an option called Power BI Service. And what you need to do is click on that. Then you will be headed into the environment that I was introduced, which is this environment, right? So I would work in here itself so that there would be no confusions. Right. So this is basically Power BI service. So today I will not be looking at Power BI service in detail. It would be looked at with workspace management, and would be looked at further with the workspace management. Since today's main task is for us to advance our data model a little bit with the use of data flows, I'll be sticking to that, and I'll be not deviating from that. So for that, first thing that we need to do is we need to have a workspace, right? We will need to have a workspace in order to publish our components, Power BI components into that workspace, and to manage those components and to give others access to those components, right? So first thing is to create a workspace. Now, talking about workspaces, you guys can see two workspaces. One is the My Workspace, which is like the main workspace that basically that's like your personal workspace. You can't really share it with anyone. It's for your personal use and it's completely free. But you can see an option called Workspaces right on top of My Workspace, right? It's where you have all those, you can say, enterprise workspaces, basically workspaces where you share with other people and where you actually manage components with other people. Those workspaces can be seen in here. right? So when it comes to this, these workspaces, in terms of how you can create that, so there are two ways. One way is to create these kind of workspaces, you need to have a pro license, right? But if you don't, that's fine. And if you are a first time using Power BI, you should have basically a pro trial license. I'm not sure about the number of days. I think it's around 50 to 60 days, I guess. You get a trial for around 50 to 60 days to basically use the pro features of the pro license. It's like a pro trial, and you can use that and create a workspace, but it will expire in the specific time duration, and apparently you will have to get yourself uh, into a pro license. But for a startup to learn to practice things, that could be decent and more than good enough. So that's something that you guys need to look at. Basically, if you are a first-time user and you haven't used Power BI before, you will have a trial for pro license in which you can use. It's around 50 to 60 days. You can create a workspace using that and do these kind of tasks if you are a first time user. And if you are an existing user who have been at least looking at maybe who haven't, basically you can say an existing user who haven't used that pro trial license, you will uh, you can still use that pro trial license and you can enable it and you can use that. And if you have already used that pro trial license for around 50 days, you will definitely have to go for a pro license to create a workspace. I hope that's clear enough in terms of how you can get into this stage. So let's create the workspace straight away. Yeah, the creating the workspace task is very simple. So under workspaces, you have a create a workspace option. So it's a yellow color button, as you can see right on the bottom. So just click on that, and you should be headed into a new window like this, right? So in this particular window, you should be able to see the workspace name. Sorry, basically you should be able to see a text box to enter the workspace name, and you can enter a workspace description as well. So I'll just give a workspace name saying that Power BI trading. Right. So I had set up a workspace, put in a workspace name here. I will not be giving a description, and I would just click on here. And you, when you do that, after clicking on save, you will be headed into a new workspace. Blank workspace, you simply don't have anything here. It's simply blank. So you will have the workspace here. So that's what this demo is all about. So not a big task to do, but there is a lot to explain in terms of how you guys can get into the stage and create this workspace. Creating the workspace is like a job of a Tohu, but the like how you actually get into that stage is something that's important to understand. Important to understand, right? So we have created a workspace, and the next thing what we need to do is we need to publish the data model that we created in the last session into this Power BI workspace, right? So I would just have a look at the previous model that I created. So this is basically, you can see in the screen now is the model that I created in the last session. So it's same as that, no differences, right? Uh, I had simply done nothing. I had just left it as it is from the previous session. So that's there as it is. So what I'll be doing is I'll be publishing this model into that workspace I created. How I do that? Uh, Under home, you should be able to see the publish button right at the right hand side of the tab, basically the ribbon. So click on that, and when you click on that, uh, uh, and the prompt will appear asking you whether you want to save the changes. I would say yes, and I will just move ahead with it. And you should get all the list of workspaces that you have access for at this stage. And what I want is Power BI Training Bangladesh, which is this, right? So I would just search for it in this search bar, and I will click on this Power BI Training Bangladesh option, and I will click on select. And this would publish this data model that I am having into that workspace. Right. So as you can see, the publish is a success. So you can see the success tick right here and the success text. So that means it's all good. So you can access the data model from here or from the workspace you created. So I'll access from the workspace I created because I just want to show you that change. Yeah. So as you can see some components, right? The first component is the data set, which is the data model. Basically, as I told you guys in the previous session, the the data model in Power BI in the Power BI desktop file will be a data set when it's published into Power BI itself. So that's the transition that had happened here in with the orange color icon. When you move it also, it says data set. So you can see a data set right here. And there's another option that's created on another component that's created on default, which is a report, right? So you might be thinking, we didn't create a report, right? We didn't create any visualizations. We didn't plot any visualizations. It's just blank as it is, but we are getting a report view for that for this, right? So that's not right. So that's something that's created by default when publishing, and there is no problem in you taking this off. If I just show you inside that report, inside that report, it's completely blank. There's nothing. So it's something that's published by default. So I was thinking previously it was something because you had like drag and drop something in, and afterwards, like even you take it off, it could remain kind of thing. I thought it was I thought basically previously in the Power BI desktop you drag and drop visuals, right? When you drag and drop pictures and when you clean up those pages, and when you publish, I thought the catch kind of thing remains and it creates this report. Uh, but later on, I realized I had worked with like multiple Power BI projects, and later on, I realized that in every project, that every time you publish a data model, this kind of a thing happens, right? So it's, I think, safe to say that it's something that's created by default when you're publishing a data model as a Power BI data set. So for that, I would what I'll do is I don't need it, right? It's SQL bank, so it's useless of me having it. So I could just take that off. I would just click on the ellipsis and click on the delete option. Right, so that is done, and we have the data set right here. If you go to the all option, you can see the data model, and in here on the data sets also you can see the data model. Right now, remember in the previous session, what we actually did was we connected our data source was a local SQL server, right? Now, when it was in local SQL, when you basically connect to locally, it went on smoothly and the refresh went on smoothly, right? Because you had connected to this model locally. Because the model is also in your local machine, and the SQL server or the database in the SQL server is also in the local machine. So there will be no problems in terms of access. You will be able to connect it successfully and do your data modeling with those local connections, right? But when you publish this data model into this workspace, and you try to run a refresh, it would fail. So I would show that. I would just run a refresh and it says refresh failed because this dataset requires a gateway, right? But if I just go into my data model and if I do a very quick refresh for you here in the refresh option right here, data model in my Power BI desktop, if you just give it a few minutes, you will see that it would be a successful run. It would be a success and there would be no issues in terms of such a gateway necessity, right? So, but in here you need something called a gateway, right? So that leads us to our next question, which is what is a Power BI gateway? Which is what is the gateway? In this case, we'll be using a Power BI gateway. So a gateway is acts as a bridge between on-prem data sources, and Power BI service. So specifically, this is used for data transfer. And there are two types of gateways, which is one is the standard gateway, and the other one is the personal gateway. So the standard gateway is basically where it's basically enterprise. You can call it as an enterprise mode gateway, where data can be transferred between multiple data sources and multiple users as well. But when it comes to a personal gateway, it's just with one user and a single data source. So that's the difference. So if you guys don't get this Power BI gateway concept, that's completely fine. You would understand it when we move further in terms of what it does. For now, just keep it in mind that it's like a bridge. Basically, you connect to connect your on-prem data or your local data sources with the cloud, basically with the Power BI service, and to do transfer data between that channel. So for that, we use something called a Power BI gateway. So that's a Power BI gateway, and that leads us to our next session, next demo, which is configuring a Power BI gateway. So configuring a Power BI gateway, before I get you guys into this study, into this title, um, I would like to show you what uh, what Microsoft has to say about says about this Power BI gateways. So I just Google in Power BI gateway, and you will get this kind of a page, which is the first option. So how do you do that? When you just Google Power BI gateway, you will get the first option right here. So just click on it, and you would end up in the same page. And how you do that? And you would end up in the same page. So there, you can see the two modes that I talked about in the previous slide, which is you can download the standard mode, you can download the personal mode. So if you just head down a bit, scroll down a bit, you can see the features of the standard mode, which is here, sorry, which is here, and the personal mode, which is here, right? So if I just take you through these differences in a bit detail. So firstly, the criteria is cloud services it works with. So basically the platforms that it works with without that it is compatible with. So in this case, you can see that the standard mode is compatible with Power BI, Power Apps, Azure Logic Apps, Power Automate, Azure Analysis Services, and data flows. But when it comes to the personal mode is just compatible with Power BI, which is a Power BI dataset. You can only use the personal mode with a Power BI dataset. And the next criteria is serves multiple users with access control per data source. Right. That basically means it serves multiple users and it's not personal, right? It's basically a team-based data gateway. You can call it that way. Yeah. Also, multiple users can access and basically transfer data and work with it, work with this gateway for various purposes from various data sources. So that's what it basically says, and that functionality is not available in the personal mode, right? So which is why you see that kind of thing in under standard mode, which means it's available in the standard mode, and you see simply blank in the personal mode, which means it's not available in the personal mode. And this third criteria is runs as an app for users who aren't administrators. Right? So basically, that doesn't work that way, right? So that doesn't work that way in standard mode, because standard mode dedicates to various users and it does not specifically work as an app. But when it comes to personal mode, it works as a personal app, right? Dedicated to your local machine, to your local data source, into Power BI service. That's how it works. Uh, so it's very dedicated and very restricted for a single user. So that's what it elaborates once again. And then runs as a single user with user credentials. Once again, so the same point that I'm raising. So basically, it's personal, and there are multiple users will not be accessing that, and that means it's not team compatible, right? You can't use it within a team. You can use it personally, and ideally, if these personal gate modes, personal mode gateways were introduced for people like business analysts who wants to develop a report really quick, data model and a report really quickly, and just publish it in and just show some output very quickly in a very quickly with where is no much team-based integration kind of thing, team-based uh, uh, there is no much of a team-based thing there. So it's just a single person that who wants to get a particular task done and use a personal mode and just gets that done by connecting to the local data sources, on-prem data sources to Power BI service. So it's that kind of a thing. Uh, and the other criteria is import data and set up scheduled refresh. So basically what that means is the import data, you can import data. Uh, the import data option, I think I talked about it in the last session. You have basically three types of modes in which you can bring in data. One is import, the other is direct query, and there is another one called dual. But it's mainly into uh, direct query and import, right? So in this, what it says is it allows data import, and basically it allows scheduled refreshes, which means you can schedule data refreshes to happen in that particular time with reference to the on-prem data sources. And then the other option is the direct query support, which is the other mode in which you can get the data in. So that is only available in the Power BI standard gateway, standard mode. That is not available in the personal mode. Then the final option is support for live connection to analyst services. So that's obvious, right? Because you analysis services is only compatible with on-premises data standard mode data gateway. So you can only use Power BI with the personal mode. So that's obvious, right? So yeah, that's about that for you guys. Just a bit of comparison for you to like understand what is used for what. So ideally, personal mode is used in a very minimal number of cases where someone needs to, a single user wants to get something done kind of thing very quickly with reference to a local data source. They will use a personal mode, and every other time it would always be a standard mode. So even in our solutions that we implement, there is no way in which we have implemented a personal mode for solution. It had been always a standard mode, because we what we cater is large scale, and it's not particularly you can say large scale to medium scale, and it's not particularly for a specific requirement to build one report. It could be a set of reports and a set of data models with some data flows to fulfill one high level requirement. So for that kind of a situation where you refer to multiple data sources and you will need to uh, you will need to facilitate multiple users. So under such circumstances, it is always standard mode for us. Uh, I simply don't have a practically, I had done it for practice, but I haven't practically implemented personal mode in industrial solutions. So that's just a bit of insight on that. Right. So we talked a lot about these two types of data gateways, which are essential for you to understand. So I hope that you guys have a clear understanding of the database gateways right now. So now it's time for us to configure an appropriate data gateway so that we can use it for basically we can use it for our requirement. So I had done that already here. Uh, right here. So my data gateway is online and I had provided the respective configurations, and I would just take you guys much as I can in this installation process. And since I have already installed that, I don't think I can go that far with it. But yeah, so first thing first, you just need to click on this download standard mode, and basically the gateway should start downloading. And basically I had done that, so I would not be wasting time downloading that. And then you click on the you will a file called the installation file called gateway install will be downloaded, and basically you click on that. So as you can see, when I click on that, since my gateway is already installed, so I am getting a message like this. But what happens with you guys is when you click on that, uh, basically when you click on that, you would be asked two options: whether you want to migrate an existing data gateway or whether you want to register a new data gateway. So it should be always, if you guys are first time user, it should be always register a new data gateway. And after doing that, you have to provide a gateway name, and you have to provide something called a recovery key. So a recovery key is very important because every time, just think you of a situation where you reformatted your local machine. You practice a few things in this and you reformatted your local machine. The only way you can get those data gateway configurations back is with the by entering the recovery key. So recovery key is something like a password. So make sure that you put in something that you remember for that. And basically you just save those details. Basically you click on the configure button afterwards and your data gateway is ready. And that's basically it for that. It in terms of how you can install your data gateway. And after you do the installation, if you head right into, I would use a carpenter mode. So if you head right into uh, the top panel of Power BI service, right? Uh, Power BI service. So you will see an option called settings, right? So basically you will see a gear icon. When you hover it, it says settings. So you click on that, and you would be headed into multiple options saying manage group storage, view content pack, admin portal, manage gateway settings, manage embed codes. So at this stage, we'll be looking at manage gateways. Just click on manage gateways, and you should be able to see your gateway right here. After you do that installation, and it says it's online as it does right here. When it says online here, it should appear here. So you can see FTD Himanta is available here as well without any problem. And inside that you have multiple data sources, right? So under these multiple data sources, are basically connections to respective data sources. So this is like an overall connection to my local local server, and this is like the connection to a respective database in my local server. So I can test these connections, and if I want, I can add a new data source or remove an existing data source, and I can play around with that. So just to show you guys around, I would maybe create a new data source. So just click on add new data source, and in that what you basically do is provide a name for the data source. In this case, it's I would say AW Adventure Works. The name does not look good, so let me just, yeah, that looks okay. And basically, what I want to use is a SQL server, and I'll click on that. And in here, I should provide my server name. So in my local, I would like to give my local server name in which my local machine is in, so which is this. I would provide that. And then I would provide my database as well. It would be AdventureWorks 2017, as I remember. And authentication method would be Windows, and under Windows, it should be my respective authentication with the domain that I'm in, the tenant that I'm in, and basically your password. That's about it, and all you need to do is add the data source, and you can see it's successful, and you can so successful means that there is no problems with that. So even if you test all these connections, you should be able to be all right. Right. So we are connection successful, all good here. So we have basically created a gateway, Power BI gateway now, and inside the gateway we had also created a respective source to refer in our data model. And the next thing what we want to do is we want to refer to our data model. Refer this gateway to our data model. To do that, once again, come back into your Power BI workspace that you created previously, and click on the ellipsis that you see right in front of the data model, and click on settings, and you would be headed into an setting, uh, basically place with this kind of settings. So what you want to do is go to gateway connections, and you can see my gateway connection is always there. Uh, it can it basically uses gateway, but I need to select which data source it should refer to. So I would say it should refer to gateway. I'm not really getting this option. Not sure why, but for the moment, maybe we can go ahead with that, and it should be all right. Basically, you will get. Let me just see what I can do about it. This is all right. So, sorry, once again, I will take that. And what I will be doing is this one, see why this is coming this way, and like this one shows the other options. It just shows local host AdventureX. I can just go ahead with that, but I'm not really getting that option. Not sure why that is. Was it because I didn't do a refresh? Let me do a quick refresh and see how it works. Right. So that's something. Uh, but for you guys to know, just so you have the gateway connection option here. Just go inside that, and you should be able to see the gateway that you had configured right here. And it says it should be default. It should default say on, and basically you would see an option called Maps to here, and in that it should basically what you can do is you can add a gateway here itself. Basically, you can add a gateway or basically a data source from here itself, but you can't really refer to that previous data gateway that here. Not sure about why that is, but let me just, since you guys will be heading in this direction, I would create a new data set here. I would create a new data source here, so that it's clear enough for you guys to go ahead. So my connection would be once again 2017 the I would say SQL DB here, and I would just give my current console should be good. So and it will be Windows connections, and I would give my service real quick. And I would just head on it like this, and it's all done. So you should be able to see the option right now here. It does not. Was it because I didn't do a refresh once again? Let me just check that, since that would be essential for you guys. Yeah, not really. I think it's referring. I think it's because all. I'm assuming it's because all these connections are referring to the same data source and the same database. It appears this way. I'm not really sure about the reason why that is. But for now, let's move ahead with this. I hope you guys have a clear understanding in terms of how you can configure your gateway. So basically, provide the data source connection here under Maps to. Under the drop down, just click on the data source, and that's about it. And just click on apply, and basically your gateway is configured into your data model now, and you shouldn't have any problem with that. And you shouldn't have a problem with that. And basically, you can head back into your data model in the workspace, and you can do a refresh and see how it works. It should go on smoothly. You can see that a rotating icon is visible, which means it's refreshing, and the time should be updated for the time right now once it is done. Right, there you go. The refresh went on smoothly, and we didn't have any problem with that. So that's the third demo is completed. We had configured the gateway, and that move takes us to data flows, which is the core section of this session. So data flows are primarily used for data preparation. You can say self-service data preparation as well, because as with Power BI data sets, it uses Power Query for data preparation. So it's same, and simply anyone can use it. You don't need to have any technical knowledge to do data preparation with Power BI data flows. So and there are various use cases for Power BI data flows. You can even create an entire data warehouse with the use of Power BI data flows. But of course, you need Power BI Premium to make it work, because some of the features in data flows are referring to Power BI Premium. So in this scenario, in this training, what we'll be looking at is the consolidating entities or consolidating dimensions use case. We'll be referring it to that. Basically, what it does is it generalizes the dimensions of the entities that are used in the data model so that it can be reused. So if you don't get that, it's fine. In the next demo, you will get what that is. Sorry about that. First thing, talking about the use case. Now we have a workspace, right? And we have a data model in that workspace, which is the internet serves data model with these dimensions and a fact table called internet serves, right? Then after a while, another requirement comes up saying that you want to bring another new data model for resellers, and that would come. Now you should be able to see that the dimensions are basically the data preparation done in the dimensions, so the transformations and all the cleansing done in the dimensions in these two models are the same and are repeating, right? For example, you have the calendar table in the reseller sales data model, and you have the calendar table in the internet sales data model. You have the customer table in the internet sales and customer sales in reseller sales. Same with the product, right? So this is basically replicating, and it's not a good thing, right? So what you want to do is you want to create a centralized environment where you can access, you centrally manage these dimensions which are duplicating, and it can be used for multiple data models as per your preference, which would look something like this. So you have the Workspace, and then you have the centralized environment, which is the Power BI data flow with output tables for calendar, customer, and product inside this data flow. And this will be referred, and data models will be created with reference to uh, these output tables in the data flow, and the data models created, the logic in those data models created for the dimensions will not be replicating because it's handled centrally and done, it's executed centrally, and all that the data model does is refers this data, the entities, output tables, and does its job. Right. So that's about that for you guys, and that would take us, and basically what we'll be doing now is we'll be migrating. So in order to facilitate this, this is if I take you back to the data model that I already have, which is the Power BI desktop data model. This does not need any support. This does not need Power BI data flows to run. It runs standalone, which is like this particular slide that I showed you previously. It runs standalone, and once another data model comes in, again, if it uses the same dimensions in the same entities, the logic will replicate once again. So it's basically, you can say, a standalone or independent data model. And what you want to do is basically make it dependent with Power BI data flows by referring to dimensions. So for that, we need to do a bit of migration, right? So let's see how we can do that. For that, let's head down into our next demo, which is migrating the customer dimension. So we have three dimensions: product, customer, and calendar. So firstly, let's look at how we can migrate the customer dimension, and next the product dimension, and afterwards the calendar dimension, and we will see how it works. Uh, right. First thing is basically you need to create a data flow, right? So you head down into your Power BI desktop, and in Power BI desktop, Power BI service, and in Power BI service, just click on the new option you see right on the top of your respective workspace, and click on the data flow option. After you click on the data flow, just click on define new tables option. There are other options as well. Let's just focus on the core use case of this training session, so which is defining new tables. So let's do that, and add new tables. Click on the add new tables option, and you can see, as with the Power BI desktop I showed you in the previous training session, in the Power BI data flows, in the Power BI desktop dataset, as with comparison to the Power BI desktop dataset, you can see that in Power BI data flows as well, you have a wide range of data sources that you can refer to and keep data in. So in this case, once again, I'll be using the SQL Server database, right? And what I'll be doing is I would be dropping my server name in once again, as I did with the data flow in the as I did with the data gateway in the previous demo. And since I had already entered these details before, it had saved my details and as an encrypted connection. So I don't want to retype that again. So if it's you, you will have to retype it and make sure that your credentials you entered are right. So I would enter my database name for my ease as well. It's AdventureWorks 2017 and click on the next option at the right bottom of the window, and right there you should see the list of tables and views that basically the functions that you had used in your SQL Server database, which is the AdventureWorks DB. In here, what you want to do is you want to select your customer dimension, right? You want to select customer, and the other one you want to select will be person. Person, because if you remember from the previous session, we used two tables, person and customer, to create, consolidate, and create the customer dimension in Power BI Desktop. We'll do the same here as well. So for that, we need to refer to two tables. I have done that, and click on the transform data option. After clicking on the transform data option, I don't want to replicate everything all over again. I don't want to replicate the logic that I did in my Power BI desktop all over again. All I need to do is head down to my Power BI desktop and just click on the customer uh, customer entity and click right click on it, basically click on it and click on the edit query option, and you should be able to, you will be heading down into the Power Query view as here. And in the Power Query view, what you want to do is basically go to Advanced Editor in the Home tab under Query, Advanced Editor, and just Control A, Control C, copy it, and go down and paste that under the Advanced Editor in the Home tab under Query in your data flow. There might be connection concerns here, so basically type out the connections again if that turns up. So as you can see, it's the same here. So I would just click on connect, and it should be all right this time around. Right, so that is, sorry about that. Yeah, I just made a mistake there. So I should be referring to, I refer to an incorrect table. So I would do that all over again really quick. First thing is go to SQL Server database, and I would just enter the server name in. And since I had created, since I had already used these credentials, I don't want to type it, and I would just enter the database name here as well, and I would click on next. So when I click on next, I should get this kind of an option, and where I would get all the views, functions, and the tables that I used in this particular database. So what I want to select is the tables that I want to consolidate and create a customer dimension that says the customer and person. So I clicked on that and clicked on transform data, and after clicking on transform data, I should go into the custom entity and basically copy and paste these details. Copy and paste the Power Query logic from Power BI desktop. And go to Advanced Editor once again, and what you do is paste it and click on OK, and you have referred to the same thing again. I think it's because I referred to person previously, and that just recites I will continue evaluation because yeah. So in Power BI Desktop, I had not referred to person. I had referred to person. So what I did was I just came here and renamed this as person, and I'll come in here and rename this as customer. So basically, you have the same dimension that you created in Power BI Desktop, right here in Power BI data flows as well, right? You are smooth off with that. And what I want to do now is basically, I don't want to load this, so I would not enable load, but it would definitely refresh in the background. So it's basically the same option that I applied to the Power BI desktop in the previous training session. And that's basically I disable load. So if you can see that when you go to the person table, and if you can see that enable load is not ticked in. I had unticked it, which means it will not load as an output table into your Power BI data set. And it's the same here as well. It will not load as an output table into your Power BI data flows, right? So my customer dimension is consolidated and is ready to go. So I would save and close this, and it would basically give me the customer dimension now. And I want to save my data flow right now, so I would call it. Uh, I would call it. Yeah, maybe live dimensions for clearer understanding. Dimensions. That should be okay, right? Dimensions without keywords. But that's something I I'm always concerned about. So I would say dimensions data flow, that should be okay for now, since this is just a demo. So I would do that, and I would save my data flow. And if I come back into the high level of my Workspace, which is something I can access from the top here or from the side panel on the Workspace thing. So if I come back, you can see that I have a data flow now called dimensions data flow, and it is visible, and it's a like dark brown color. It's a dark brown color icon for the data flows. So you can see that, and I had basically done that. And if you navigate inside that data flow, you should be able to see the customer dimension. So the customer dimension is migrated successfully, and now what you want to do is you want to just get back into this model that you created, and you want to just take off this customer and refer to the customer that's in the data flow, right? So I will take off this customer, basically delete this from the model, delete from model, and this will go out, and I would refer to the what I would do next is I would refer to Power BI data flows and refer to that prospective output table in the Power BI data flow that we just created. And for that, of course, they asked my credentials again, so I'm connecting with that, and hopefully there are no connection issues. Right, so let's give it a minute till the window pops up, and there you go. Now, all the workspaces that has data flows will pop up right in this section. So you can see right at the bottom, you can see Power BI Training Bangladesh, which is the workspace that I created for this purpose. And you can see my data flow inside that, and inside the data flow, you can see the customer table. Customer dimension, I consolidated. All you need to do is just click on row, and it would just bring you the table that you already had there. So it calls customer 2. I'm not really sure why that is. Let me just rename that out. That should look good. Okay, it says it's already there. Maybe it's already there in the back end. Is that the case? So let me just quickly get down into the Power Query view. And yes, you can see that. So what you would want to do is you want to take these two off, right? You don't need that anymore because you do this consolidation in your data flows. So I click on those two, and I took that off. I'm not sure what's happening. I will delete this. the customer cannot be deleted because it's been referred by another query service. Okay, so that means we'll have to bring in the sales once again as well, because it's being referred to this particular table. So that is fine, right? So what you can do is you can copy the Power Query in cells and keep it in a separate location. So I guess I would just keep it in a, yeah, any code to the editor you like, or even a notepad, that should be okay. What you do is you keep, yeah, and basically you will have to take these two tables off. I think this would be enough. Um, Basically, take the sales table off and recreate the sales table once again. Right. Let me just see if there is a much more effective way to do that. So it's here, that's fine. So here comes the problem, right? So what I want to do is, so I'll not like delete the entire thing. It's not a good practice, and it's a waste of effort as well. So what I'll do is maybe try and change the table that it refers to custom to. Sorry, not that. So to this particular column, and I would not worry about privacy levels at this stage, so I would click on OK, and I would click on, I would just leave it as it is, the rest of the stuff, and I had done that. I had basically changed the reference to from of the fact table from the former, from the previous customer table into the new customer table that I just brought in. You can see it's just two Power Query steps. The reason you don't see data is I didn't do a refresh in data flow set, but after I do that, you should be able to see that. So what I'll do is take off these two Power Query steps. I will take off these two Power Queries because I don't need that anymore. And I would rename this customer to customer. So, and I would just close and apply. I think I'll have to refresh the data model to get an appropriate relationship. Let's see how that works out. No, so I had created a relationship appropriately without any problem. So what I'll do next is I just want to unhide the unwanted columns once again. So I don't want my users to see the source custom ID. So I would hide that, and basically that's it. So you have referred, if I just go back to edit query once again, you have done all your work, all your consolidation in data flows, and what you have done in data sets is just referred to this data flow output table in the data flow. And this way you can create multiple data sets and refer the same dimension and basically create multiple data models without repeating the same logic multiple times. Hope you get that. So I would not be running a refresh since refreshers might be getting time. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to go into the next demo, which is migrating the product dimension, which is same as with the customer dimension. I would head back into my data flow once again, and I would click on, so I don't want to click on add table, add data flow from the beginning, right? I can add the new output tables or the new dimensions into my existing data flow itself. So what you do is you head into your existing data flow, and you can see the add tables option right at the top of the screen. Click on the add tables option, and after you click on the add tables option, once again you have to go through the same process where you go to SQL Server database, and again you should enter your credentials, and once again DB for your ACE. Right, that is done, and click on next, and you should be heading back into the same list of items, components that are in your database once again, and you should select your product dimension. Let me see what the issue is right here. Adventure Works 2017, sorry about that, guys. Right, so I'm heading back to the same list, and in here I would quickly navigate to production product, I guess, yes, production product, and I would click on transform data, and the same thing I will be doing here as well. I would be getting down into the product dimension, and I'll be getting into the advanced editor, and inside the advanced editor I'll be copying the logic, and I would be pasting that in my the advanced editor in my data flow, and click on OK, and click on product, and just enter the appropriate name product, and you can see that I have the same dimension here once again. I will click on save and close. So I have created that dimension here as well. Once again, what I will be doing next is I would be going into my Power Query view, and in the Power Query view, the first thing I'll do is I would, in the Power Query view itself, you can create the new table within the new table. So what I would do is I would basically, you can refer the new table in a different way, but I think I will not go into that level. I will close this and come back and show the usual process, since most of them are beginners here. So I would just click on, once again, I'm back into my normal Power BI desktop view, and in here I would select Power BI data source once again, and it will once again provide me the options where I have data flows in, where I have workspaces where I have data flows in, and you should be able to see the product dimension here. And I would click on transform data this time around, because there are a few reference changes that I want to do for the sales fact table. So I had done that for customer, and I want to do the same thing once again for product. So how I do that for product is, once again, you just click on this gear icon right next to the query step, and you should head down to the merge window, and in that you should select your new product table, and basically select your respective field and click on OK, and you should be all right. And you have your new you have your sales fact table referring to the new dimension. And what we want to do next is take off this product, which is the existing logic. You can see there are many steps. All of them are handled consolidated and handled centrally in Power BI data flow. So I will take that off here, and I would rename this to product. I would just close and apply, and it's the same process once again, and it is done. And this takes us to our final 12 minutes and the final demo of the day, which is basically the calendar dimension. But before that, first what I'll do is I'll create a relationship with product and the sales fact table. It had been taken off because I had to refer the product dimension all over again from the new data flow that I created. So that is done. So we had basically referred our dimensions accordingly. So the next thing I want to do is just move the calendar dimension, which is a bit complicated, but not overly complicated. And if you can, as you remember previously, what I did was I created this calendar table with some tabs, right? So this time around we'll be doing the same with Power Query. And how I do that, To be honest, I'm not doing that with my own Power Query logic. I'm not really good at writing Power Query, even though I can do all the I can do most of the transformations and cleansing with Power Query with the UI itself. I'm not good at writing the logic. So for that, I refer an amazing article written by Reza and Leila, which is basically about what it says is all-in-one script to create date dimension in Power BI using Power Query. So that's the article I'm referring to. So you should be able to get that if you just type in all-in-one script to create date dimension. You should be able to get that as your first option and just click on it, and you will have all the details very nicely in that article. So I would not be taking you through that article, but what I will be doing is I will be using the same script. So you can download the script from here. So you can click on the this particular Power Query script for the dimension, and it should download as a text file into your local machine. And so I had done that previously, and I have the script. So I would just copy the script and take you around the script. I would basically use the script, show you how to use the script in data flows, and take you around the script so that you guys can get a better understanding in terms of what's being done in the script. So it's a a bit of a complicated script if you look at it in the high level, but it's not at all complicated. But once again, really good job done by Riza and Leila there. Really useful for developers. They don't need to write this from scratch. They can refer this script and do their necessary amendments and use that for industrial use. So that's a really good job done there. So once again, I would be using the same script here as well. So for that, once again, I would be clicking on the add table, going into my data flows and clicking on the add tables option. And inside the add tables option, what I'll be doing this time, I will not be referring to a SQL Server database, right? I would be referring into a blank query, because this time around, I'm going to create my script. I'm going to create my calendar table with Power Query itself as a blank query. So for that, so I am copying the script. This is the script. If I just show you, so I'm just copying this script. I had opened this, and I will be copying this script and pasting it right here. And the next thing I will do is click on next, and you should see that the calendar table, it will be a beauty. It could be just right there by just few control C's and control V's, but it's important for you to understand what is happening inside this, which is the most important thing. So firstly, there are a few functions happening in here. Uh, sorry, basically what happens here is few, you can say, basically what can say, basically kind of variables that are happening here to capture like which duration you want to. Yep, it's variables. Basically you can use to understand for which duration you want to create and generate this calendar table for. It's right here. So these are the variables. You can just configure that straight up, and you can select the start of the fiscal year, from which year you want to the date table in, to which year do you want the date table for, and basically this is actually something default, nothing to change here as I know. Yeah, nothing to change here. So you can change the year you want to start with, year you want to end with, and the fiscal year when it's starting, the starting month of the fiscal year. And basically that's it for the configurations. This is it. And it will do the job in this part of the script. So if I take you for this core part of the script and take you a bit around that, I'm not going to overwhelm you guys with this, but let me just take you a bit around that. So first thing what happens is, it takes the dates as a list, right? It takes the dates in as a list here. Sorry. It takes the dates in as a list here, and that is converted into a table and with a respective column. and that column is renamed in the next step, and the rename column is basically formatted. Yeah, sorry, formatted in the sense the data type of that column is changed to date, because when it's a list, it's basically text, and when it's converted into a table, you can convert it after converting it to a table, you can convert the data type of the date column into date, and after doing that, you can basically refer that date column and add the columns. You can add year, you can add start of the year, you can add end of year, and so on. You can go on with it. So it's very simple to do that. You itself can do that very easily. Just right click on the respective date column, and basically after right clicking on the date column, you can either convert it to year, start of the year, end of the year, quarter, start, quarter of year. You can do all this stuff uh, by yourself also without using the script. So that is a great benefit that's provided by Power BI also. So, but nevertheless, the script is very useful. As you can see, I just created my date table with a very complicated date table with a just a couple of control C's and control V's, right? So I had created this calendar table. And what I would be doing next is I would be saving and closing this as I did with the other output tables. And that calendar output table should appear for me here, right here. So that is done. And the next thing I want to do is I want to get back into my model. And I want to take this off. I don't want to do this with DAX and keep it independent for every data model. I want to have a centralized calendar table with the data flow I created, and I want to refer it to all the other data models. So I would delete this, delete from model. And after doing that, I would refer my new calendar table, complicated and a very nice calendar table in my data flow. So that is that is in Power BI training. And I would refer that you can see the calendar table under this is our Power BI Workspace, and this is our data flow, and inside the data flow we would be able to see the calendar table. And don't need to click on transform data because there is no configuration for you to change here. No, because it's not being referred by fact table. So just click on load, and that particular fact table should be referred very beautifully in here. So a particular calendar table should be referred here, should be available here. So it's available. And I just want to do a refresh. Let's see if we can get some time to do a refresh. I have 2 minutes more. Right. So what I'll do is, as with what I did previously with the calendar table, I would be referring it to the order date order date in the sales fact table to the date in the calendar table, and I would be building a relationship. So that is done. Basically, you have basically taken your data model into the next level. And the next thing what you want to do is basically you want to just publish this. And I will be publishing this model into the same workspace. So remember, when it's publishing, there will be no changes to the configurations you did previously, right? So it would remain the name. It's just that the model content would change. So in this case, I would just click on the same data model, same workspace, and click on select. Sorry about that, guys. So sorry. So click on basically click on the same. Sorry. Yeah, just a bit of flop there. So just click on the workspace, and when you click on the workspace, you will get an option whether to. There is already a dataset name with this particular name, and whether you want to replace that kind of thing. So I want to replace that. So I would replace that. So what happens is the data model content will only change. The configurations that are done in Power BI service will not change. It could remain the same, right? So that is done. So I have taken my model into the next level with Power BI data flows here, and you can see my data flow is available and the data model is available. Now the only thing left for you to do is to basically refresh the data flow in the first place, because after doing the refresh, because you have to refresh the data model after refreshing the data flow, because output tables in the data flow are referred to the data model. So in order to reflect whatever the data that are in order for the data in the data flow in the output tables of the data flow to reflect in the data model, you need to make sure that the data flow is refreshed first and the data model is refreshed in the second place. So we are right on time, but the refresh seems to be getting a bit of time. I'm not sure whether I had configured, yeah, I had configured the gateway, no problems there, but it might get a bit of time, but I would not be taking any more time from you guys. So just what I would say is I would cover this refresh section in the next session as well. All you need to do is refresh this particular dimension data flow and basically refresh dimension data model, and the data will be reflected nicely in your data model as previously. So that's it to do. So if you guys had completed up to this stage, please try that out, and it would be really good. And if you guys are first timers for this session and wasn't able to come to the previous session, please look at the video of the first session in YouTube, and after that get back to this, otherwise it will be a bit confusing for you guys to grab it. So please do that. And thank you very much, Azan, once again for having me in. It was a privilege to speak at Tech Forum, Tech Community once again, and to communicate and to contribute to the community. So it's great that such training sessions are introduced for the community to upskill the professionals into the next level. So I hope I provided an appropriate contribution in this journey, and more sessions to come. And please, if you guys have some feedback on these sessions, use the QR code you can see on your screen right now and provide any kind of feedback. There are no restrictions for the feedback. You can simply provide anything. And if you guys are unable to access this particular QR code, you can always use the link. I would copy and paste the link in the chat below. So I'm sorry, but I don't see the chat today. So yeah. So thank you very much, Azan, for having me. And I can see a question from a guest.
Assalamualaikum. I am Enamul. Can I question?
Right. Yes, sure.
This topic, other topics I am to question. I have, there are 1,000 users for my organization, and I will deploy to a Power BI. How many license cost per month or per year? Can
right.
guess?
All right. If it's 1,000 users, and it depends on the number of users who will be using Power BI. Thank you very much for your question. So if I explain that, it depends on the number of users who actually want to use and will be using Power BI. From out of those 1,000, if it's like 200, around 300 to 200 using if around 200 300 employees are using Power BI, I think a pro license would do. I'm not really sure about the accurate costings, but you have to select between pro and premium at this stage licensing based on the number of users who will be using it. So there is a basically calculation you need to do. Basically, a pro license, a single pro license costs $9 per month. So if you want to check it for a year, it's 9 into 12, and basically into the number of employees. And you have to check that amount with basically the premium, the appropriate premium capacity that you guys want to go ahead with, right? So if those two match up, Basically, from that you should select the appropriate costing option and go ahead with that. It's not something I can give you an accurate figure on right now. That's something we have to investigate further, and that's something that should be decided then, rather than that should be decided with further investigation. So that's a bit of insight on that. So simply, you have to select between Power BI Pro license and Power BI Premium license. And basically, if there are more users using Power BI, like around 500 to 600 users, roughly Premium would be the most appropriate. But if there are a less number of users using Power BI, around 100, 150, then I think Pro would do. But it's, once again, it's not something I can, this is something I roughly gave you, roughly mentioned you, but it's not something I can accurately tell you. It's something we'll have to investigate further and figure out what is the accurate way to go ahead with this and what will be the accurate cost of this. Yeah, thank you, Enamal. I hope I answered your question appropriately.